Hello everyone, and welcome to the first edition of Spec Reviews in quite some time. I'm Spec Son of AllOutWrestling.com, and also throughout the social media landscape, Facebook, Twitter, used to be MySpace, got done with that a while back, but a lot of good stuff going on right now on my YouTube page too, and right now the return of Spec Reviews is now on the marquee. I apologize for not putting these out much sooner. It's been about a year, as I mentioned earlier, but excuse me, I just haven't been up to it. You know, I haven't had motivation to do it, although I have a lot of material to review in terms of the DVDs, VHSs, and whatnot, documentaries, mega cards, pay-per-views, supercars, all the whole nine. But you know, I'm going to do my best to change that and do a lot more of these more frequently, with a lot of more updates coming soon. And the one that I'm going to do right now is one that I've been waiting to do for at least about a month now. I've just now finally got the time, made the time to do it. I'm going to review a pay-per-view that occurred in World Championship Wrestling WCW in 1991. And it is known as SuperBrawl 91, which occurred on May 19th, 1991 at the old St. Petersburg Bayfront Center in St. Petersburg, Florida. I saw this as a kid growing up. I saw it live on pay-per-view, as a matter of fact. I remember the build. I remember the pre-show with Tony Schiavone on it for 30 minutes. A lot of good stuff associated with the pay-per-view. Unfortunately for me, I lost the video in the late 90s due to the wear and tear and stuff over there. I watched it over and over again, folks. But you know, I mean, things like that happen, especially with that kind of technology, the VHS and DVD, whatever you watch. You watch it over and over again, it's just going to tear up. What can you say? But I came to my senses several years ago, around 2003, 2004, and I said to myself, you know, I haven't seen this pay-per-view in about 3-4 years. It's time for me to actually get it. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to get the master copy before I actually go out and invest some money on the cheaper outlet, which is just to get the entire pay-per-view from a trader or somebody. I eventually did do that with the by going to NWA Legends, awesome vendor selection, and bought the original pay-per-view version with the pre-show of SuperBrawl 91, which is great. But I also purchased, prior to that, like I said, about 2003, 2004, I purchased the original master copy of SuperBrawl 91, Return from the Rising Sun, the whole epic battle between the Dragon, Tatsumi Fujinami, IWGP Heavyweight Champion, and Nature Boy Ric Flair, who is the current World Heavyweight Champion. And of course, this all standing about Ric Flair being really upset over losing the championship to Tatsumi the Dragon Fujinami at the Japan Super Show, which occurred in March of 1991 at the Tokyo Dome in Tokyo, Japan. Controversy arose by that. Ric Flair really lost that match, which was contested under WCW rules, in which if you throw it over the top rope, you as the champion will retain your championship. Or if you're the champion and you do it, you still retain your championship, but you lose the match. Ric Flair was thrown over the top rope. Bill Alfonso, who was the referee, did not see it at the time initially. I was almost say he didn't see it, he just didn't act on it initially. And Tiger Hattori, who's the second referee in charge, made the pinfall on Ric Flair after Ric Flair was brought into the ring again by Tatsumi Fujinami and pinned 1, 2, 3 shoulders on the mat. That decision was overturned eventually, and Ric Flair, after the match, grabbed the championship belt from Tatsumi the Dragon Fujinami during a press conference and while he was being interviewed by Ric Flair, and the rest is history. He brings the belt back to the States, and then this sets up SuperBrawl 91, headlining Tatsumi the Dragon Fujinami and Ric Flair to find out who will be the World's Heavyweight Champion in WCW. And that's where I began with the review. As you can see, the back of it too. Just a lot of great matches. There were 12 matches in total, but you would not be able to see all the 12 matches here on the Master, because as traditionally WCW did back then, they cut a lot of the content from their original pay-per-views, even the Clash of the Champions too, so that it can fit the hi-fi stereo format that you would see. I mean, let's see a little bit closer of it. Right here, where this one was about 110 minutes, a shade under 2 hours in total, but the pay-per-view itself lasted about a good 2 hours and 45 minutes. They wanted to do that because they wanted to emphasize the major storylines that were going on in the pay-per-views at the time, and also to cut out the clutter, some of the preliminary matches and some of the matches that just weren't that great. And I will stand on some of those too. But we start off with Dusty Rhodes, who is now the booker of WCW, and he is doing commentary with Jim Ross. Dusty and Jim Ross both made light at the beginning of the show that Dusty had won one of his three NWA championships at the Bayfront Center in St. Petersburg, Florida, when he was with Florida and Georgia back in the day against Harley Race. But that's neither here or there, just to excite you for the event. But the opening match has to do with the United States Tag Team Championship between the Fabulous Freebirds, who are now managed by Diamond Dallas Page, and Big Daddy Dink, aka the late great Sir Oliver Humperdinck, and with the Diamond Dolls, and they are going up against the Young Pistols, the team of Tracy Smothers and Steve Armstrong, who were the Wild-Eyed Southern Boys. Long story short, the Steiner brothers, who will defend their World Tag Team Championships on this very same show, were also the United States Tag Team Champions. They've had that belt since 1990, and recently at the Japan Super Show, they won the IWGP Tag Team Championship International Wrestling Grand Prix. And they had 3 major championship belts in their possession. WCW said they will have to relinquish the United States Tag Team titles, and as a result, this match was made, I believe it was a tournament final, between the Young Pistols, or the top 2 contenders, I can't remember which one. The top 2 contenders, the Young Pistols, and the Fabulous Freebirds, Michael Hayes and Jimmy Jam Garvin. This was a really good match. It really didn't last long. It was kind of awkward, I think you could say, for most people. I think that the United States Tag Team titles would be the beginning of the show, but for the purposes of the card how it was constructed, it was actually a good move that it happened. Created a lot of excitement, but the Freebirds were actually the ones that were really over in this match with the crowd. Young Pistols got a reaction, but they were getting boos too. It was a testament to show how popular the Freebirds have become in the southeastern region of the United States at the time. Of course, they're from Georgia and everything. Big Daddy Dink eventually got ejected out of the match because of interference, and Scott Armstrong. Scott Armstrong. Get my Armstrong thing. Brad Armstrong, the infamous light heavyweight during the Crockett era and also during WCW, came in and stood up for his brother Steve and also for Tracy Smothers. They tried to combat that interference. And eventually what occurred was Big Daddy Dink died ejected. Brad Armstrong left the area, and you have a really good solid match. The Young Pistols tried to initiate a whole lot of offense with a lot of high-flying maneuvers. However, eventually the Fabulous Freebirds were able to slow them down a bit, but then, of course, as every great tag team match, the faces eventually gain momentum towards the end, and right when you think that the Young Pistols are going to win this match with a spectacular maneuver off the top rope by Tracy Smothers and Steve Armstrong, here comes this masked man who's covered from head to toe in spandex. He had a name called Bad Street on the back, and he gives both of the Young Pistols DDTs from the second rope, and just amazing. And you had the Fabulous Freebirds come over for a pin, and they of course win the United States Tag Team Championship. Now this is amazing for the Freebirds. The Freebirds have not only won the World Tag Team titles at Wrestle War against Doom, they lose the titles to the Steiner brothers in the TV format. They really lost the championships prior to Long story. They lose the belts to the Steiner brothers, and then very shortly thereafter, they become the United States tag team. So they had a really productive first half of 1991, and really throughout 1991. Maybe even became the six-man tag team title with that champions with Bad Street. They were a very productive year that doesn't get talked about a lot by the Freebirds. U.S., World, and six-man tag team championships at some point. But long story short, Brad Armstrong appeared during the match, but he also appeared at the end of the match as Bad Street. So Brad Armstrong was Bad Street. Many people knew it at the time, but that really was the truth. After that, we have a match between Ricky Morton and Dangerous Dan Spivey, who makes a return to World Championship Wrestling. He had been a prominent member of the Skyscrapers with Sid Vicious for a long time. They break up, and then he comes back again in Starrcade 90, and then we don't see him again after that, and now he comes back again, and then we didn't see him after this match, I don't think ever again in WCW. He defeated Ricky Morton, who didn't have Robert Gibson by his side. He was basically wrestling as a singles wrestler during the entire first half of 1991 and tail end of 1990. Teaming with Tommy Rich here and there, but pretty much wrestling as a singles wrestler because Robert Gibson was injured for the majority of 1991 due to major reconstruction surgery on his knee. So Ricky was, by himself, put up a good fight, but he, as much courage as Ricky Morton had, he could not withstand the power and strength of Dan Spivey, who won the match via an awesome powerbomb. Dan Spivey has a pretty cool powerbomb. After that match, we have Nikita Koloff, who's coming back. Nikita Koloff, after a long stint away from WCW/NWA for about 2 years, and he was wrestling in the AWA for a short period of time, that wrestling fans really hadn't seen him in several months, 7, 8, 9 months in a major professional wrestling promotion. And at Wrestle War, he turns against Lex Luger, basically off revenge of losing the United States Championship from Luger at the Great American Bash in 1987. Long time ago with help of J.J. Dillon, who's now in the WWE at the time. For fans who remember it, and there were several fans that did, they loved it. But for fans who knew nothing about it, they were clueless of how this Russian could attack Lex Luger at Wrestle War. But he did. He even destroyed the old U.S. title too on one edition. I think it was NWA/WCW main event. But and keep in mind, during this, and at this point in time, Nikita Koloff is in a feud with Lex Luger. He has a match against Tommy Rich, which was kind of like a nostalgia like purpose because Rich was famous in Florida and in Georgia. So people remember both of those guys of the Crockett era to some extent. And Tommy Rich got a huge ovation, and so did Nikita Koloff. But at the end of the day, Nikita was really viewed as a heel by everybody. Now hailing from Lithuania, weighing 129 kilos or something like that. I love their competitive, awesome announcer. Long story short, you had a really good power struggle between both guys. Tommy Rich was really more of the aggressor in terms of fast-paced wrestling. However, at the end of the day, he could not withstand the Russian sickle in which Nikita Koloff put on him, and he won the match. So, if you look at the first 3 matches of the show, the heels have prevailed 3 straight times. You don't see that often very much these days, but 3 guys, Fabulous Freebirds, you had Dan Spivey, and now you have Nikita Koloff winning matches. After that, you have a match between Dustin Rhodes, the natural Dustin Rhodes, 21 years old and all, and he has a very interesting dichotomy going on with the York Foundation. Apparently, the York Foundation wanted to recruit Dustin Rhodes, and Dustin Rhodes turned them down. So now, Alexandra York, who is the executive head of the York Foundation, coming out with her bodyguard, Mr. Hughes, Curtis Hughes, who would play a very significant role in WCW 1991 and also into 1990.